Well, hi to the Faith Baptist Church family and many of our friends who are watching. Now that more things are opening up in Nova Scotia, people are wondering about the future, what's going to happen next, and in particular, when can I come back to church? When can I see my church family again? And so I wanted to take this opportunity just to update you a little bit on some of what's going on, some of what I see and our church leadership anticipates about some of what might be coming next in the next few months and toward the end of this year, just to give you a sense of what to expect and what we're kind of imagining could be what church life looks like for the next little while. Over the past few weeks, I've had the chance to be part of a focus group of pastors from the Canadian Baptists of Atlantic Canada looking at the question of reopening. I took in a webinar recently with Dr. Robert Strang, our Chief Officer for Health in Nova Scotia, addressing Christian ministries across Canada specifically. I've, of course, been keeping up with the COVID-19 news generally, but especially in the church world in Canada and the United States, and some in Europe as well, to try to stay on top of all this. And the biggest thing I've come away with so far is that churches would really be wise to adopt a creative new normal in this time and not just wait for the old normal to come back. Because the old normal is not coming back. The world will look different once we have finally subdued COVID-19. And the journey to get to that place might be quite long. It might be longer than some of us are hoping. So, to start with this reminder, a church is not a building, that church is not a 1 hour event on a Sunday morning, but rather followers of Jesus are the church. That the work God has for us to do in this world happens all week long, and that our ability to seek and experience God, we can have that in any place and in any time. Churches haven't closed because of this pandemic. We're just not using our buildings right now. So that's, I think, important to remember. Of course, worship services in our sanctuary altogether, those are a blessing. Who knew how much we would miss those when they were happening every week? But here we are. I know you miss them. I miss singing with our worship team. I miss getting to see your faces when I preach. I miss watching my kids grow up with some of your kids. I'd like to get back to that place. But the reality is that we are not going to be having that kind of experience again, and probably for quite a while. Until there's herd immunity in Nova Scotia, it is not likely, from everything I'm seeing, that we're going to be permitted to have indoor gatherings where people can get up close to one another, where we can sing together, where we can eat together, where we can do many of the things that we most look forward to doing when we come to a church service. So I'm as hopeful as the next person that we'll have this fully effective vaccine ready now early next year, but there's just no guarantee that it'll happen that fast or that we'll be able to get something that gives us complete immunity from COVID-19. Dr. Strang warned that we could end up with something that's more like annual flu shots, something that helps but doesn't solve the problem altogether. Alberta just put out the first detailed guidelines in Canada for worship services. I've seen those and some other things from the United States about reopening. And the list of rules and regulations and restrictions and recommendations, they are daunting. Following all of them means not doing most of the things that we would do on a Sunday morning. And so we don't know Nova Scotia's rules yet, but there's no reason to expect they would be very different. And that's frustrating, but I also support that it needs to be that way right now. The reality is that before this lockdown happened, and since some places have started to reopen, some of the worst situations for COVID-19 spreading from one infected person to a large number of other people, they happened in churches and in choir rehearsals and at funerals. Groups of people indoors talking and singing is just about the best way to spread this virus. And so out of love for our congregation and our community, we want to be very careful not to allow this to happen because of us. So what does that mean for what will happen next? Let me try to lay this out as best I can right now. First of all, we're not going to attempt to have physical services in our building the first moment that the government says we could go ahead with that. By staying at least a step behind what is allowed for reopening, we will limit our risk to our congregation and to our community. And we prevent having to start all over again because the situation can change. New Brunswick just saw this as churches were preparing to open and had to cancel all over again because of a new infection spreading. We also know that we may see in the fall a resurgence of COVID-19. Many scientists think that that's likely, and so we don't want to restart in a way that we lose some of what we had, and then we have to cancel all of that as well. So that's the first part. We also won't likely see any form of regular children's ministry for quite a while. Certainly at least until the province figures out how to reopen schools. And even at that point, it's hard to say if we'll be going back to doing anything the way we did. So when it seems safe and appropriate, we will try to have some physical services in our building again. And at first, they're probably going to mean staying 2 meters away and maybe wearing masks, no singing, no refreshments, or much chit-chat even. You might have to pre-register to come. You certainly will have to register if you come because we'll need a record of who was there in case there is an infection and to help with contact tracing. These may not happen every week. They may not happen Sunday mornings. They'll probably mainly consist of a devotional message and prayer, maybe a solo musician or something like that. That's really what the shape of a physical worship service over the next few months in particular is likely to be like. We're also thinking about maybe experimenting with some outdoor services over the summer. Again, not likely every week, but occasionally as an opportunity to see one another. There wouldn't be quite as many restrictions involved if we came and put our lawn chairs out in the parking lot at an appropriate distance apart and settled in for a message and maybe a little music and prayer together. It's not because we're against doing physical services in our building again. It's just that these will be difficult to do properly and safely. And we know many of our people won't be able to attend, especially early on. And so in the service of offering some comfort and encouragement to our core members, yes, we do want to do this. But we also want to remember that our mission is bigger than that. I spoke recently about our calling to be a witness for Jesus in our world. And I said that for the foreseeable future, our building just isn't going to be the right tool for that job. And I'm only getting more convinced of this as I see more of what's happening in other places. But look, I want to encourage you with some good news. Our worship service attendance hasn't gone down. Between watching it online, on DVD, listening to messages in podcast form or other ways, we have more people tuned in than ever. Some of them live in other provinces. Some of them would never be able to come physically to a church service. And on top of that, we're putting more out there through midweek devotionals, kids videos, and other content that creates new discipleship opportunities for people all over the place. So we want to use this and grow this. I'm going to launch a new series on June the 7th called New Normal, where we'll look at some ways and some questions we might want to ask ourselves about our lives as we make this journey through this strange period. And I want to make this as accessible as possible to people who aren't normally in our church building on a Sunday morning. I want it to inform and challenge you too. But my hope and prayer is that it will bring the gospel into homes in our community because we'll advertise it there online, and we'll ask you to share and to forward and to link and to like this so that people that you know and connect with in the online world might see it. I'm also going to keep encouraging you to think about your home as a place where worship happens. Maybe if you have your bubble family, or as restrictions make it easier to start gathering over time, we'll keep inviting you to try to have house church. Invite those extended family members or friends or neighbors to come and make use of that online service and share in that together. Or maybe go and gather with others at the church in their homes when that's safe and appropriate to do. In my view, this is really where the greatest potential is for honoring Jesus' Great Commission. We're to make disciples. And inviting people into a comfortable home environment to hear the gospel and share life together, that's going to be a much more compelling way to do that than going to a mostly empty church building for an awkward and restrictive service. We're going back to our roots. That's the way the church started, and I think churches that are going to thrive through COVID-19, this is likely the way that they're going to do it. Along with this, there are opportunities for a home-based Sunday school where families can gather just themselves or with one or two others. They can use our new children's ministry videos and resources that we're providing and have that experience of doing discipleship with their own children, and they don't have to miss church to do it. So eventually, it will become possible to have something closer to a regular church service in our building. But at that point, I hope and pray that our reach will have expanded, that we won't just be one congregation that gathers physically, but we'll be a group of people who do gather in our building, but also live stream our worship to others who are gathering on their own or in small groups, some of whom may be outside of our immediate community. We'll also see other things that may continue to happen online, some of our meetings or small groups or other things, some of our video content and teaching and discipleship, maybe things like membership classes or things like that. There are all kinds of things that we may not go back to doing the way we once did. I don't know exactly what our new normal will be like next year or this time the year after that, but I guess I know this much. I know that we will never be exactly where we were at the end of 2019, but God is still trustworthy. His purposes and plans are good. Wherever He is leading us is good. And so it's up to us to listen and to discern and to follow. I know that our purpose in this world is not to make ourselves as comfortable as possible, but to grow to be like Jesus. And that often happens in times of difficulty more than it does in times of ease. I know there are a lot of hard things about this season. My family feels it too, but let's be attentive to the ways that God can bless us and help us be the people we were created to be through all of this. And I know that the church is needed, and it's needed now more than ever. We have more opportunities to reach and connect to people than ever. And I would hate for us to disappoint our Lord by not seizing this chance to try new things, to seek to reach new people. We have right now, and we will have over these upcoming months, new ways to witness in word and in deed, ways that we can't even imagine right now. And finally, I know that we are a church with the potential to make this transition. Not all churches are going to manage it. Some churches will thrive and expand in this time. Some churches won't survive it. And if we thrive, which I believe we will, it will be because of you who faithfully give to support our mission. It will be because of you who call and care and support each other through this. It will be because of your patience and your gracious spirit, which will guard our unity through this. It will be because of each one of you who chooses to try something new in these coming days, who venture online in new ways, who invite other people into your home or go to someone else's home for church there. Those of you who teach your children Bible lessons for the first time, who start to pray and engage with the Bible independently through your week, or who find new places of service because there will be new needs or expanded needs in our community in the wake of COVID-19. There is a lot that God can do in and through us. And so my prayer would be that we would ask Him to, that we would allow Him to, and that He'll be glorified because of that as we make this journey through the new normal. So again, I don't want to tell you that this is the exact plan, but just to say, these are the kinds of things that are happening in the church world that I think are well suited to us, that I've been talking to our leadership about. And I would ask for you to pray, please. Pray for me and your church leaders and our ministry overall, that God would just lead us into ways in which we can thrive in this very different and difficult situation, because God is absolutely capable of leading us into a wonderful new normal, even though there will be challenges to get there. And so please pray that happen, just as I'll be praying that God will help to grow your faith and show Himself to you in whole new ways through this time. So thanks very much, and look forward to connecting with you in all the ways that we can as soon as we can.